Hey guys, it's me, Toby, and today I'm gonna do a podcast episode on Kevin Nash, The Outsiders VHS. And what we're gonna do is listen to the interview segments, and I'll react to each interview segment on this tape. And without further ado, let's begin.
At that point, Scott and I were trying to make a statement, and Eric was the president of the company, and we felt if we were going to make a statement, we might as well start with him, and I think we started it pretty well.
Okay, so what Kevin Nash was referring to, in hindsight, is when he was from WWF as Diesel, pretending to invade WCW, which that ended up poorly because of the whole lawsuit that happened eventually, where they had to admit they weren't invading from WWF's behalf. But other than that, nothing was really said yet. So let's continue.
We had been in WCW prior to our careers in New York, and both of us felt we were treated poorly, and we had a lot to prove, and we figured the best way to do was just come in and take over the company. So that was basically the essence of the NWO, and when we were able to get Hollywood to join us, it pretty much put the exclamation point on the NWO.
So basically, Kevin Nash in this is saying that the NWO had humble beginnings with just the three of them, and as we know, it grew and grew and grew until it was just NWO Black and White and NWO Wolfpack pretty much taking over the entire roster as we know now. But without further ado, let's continue.
Concern at that point was going back and looking is who was the third person. We were going to have a six-man tag against WCW's finest, and we knew that in order to once again make a point, the third guy had to be stronger in the people's eyes than the first two that came out. I think it was a big surprise when Scott walked on the television show. It was a big surprise when I walked on the show, and then when Hogan turned in Daytona Beach, it was just kind of wow. And I think that ignited pro wrestling to what we have now with the incredible cable ratings and everything else. I think that we pretty much shocked the world that the perennial good guy in pro wrestling had became evil. Anytime you put something together in your mind, of course, you always hope for success. To what degree, you never know, but I mean, this far exceeded anything that we thought would happen. I mean, it kind of took the nation by storm.
Wow, that's a lot to unpack. Basically, he said that they didn't know Hogan was going to be the third person, which this might have been the first time someone's ever said that. And they also mentioned the fact that he didn't even know who the third person was going to be until like the last moment, which is pretty interesting. And yeah, there's a lot to unpack here, but we do have a time limit. So I'm just going to continue and see what else he says.
Scott and I had not tagged before coming here. We had no prior ring experience with each other. And at that point, we'd had, a good run together here. And, Harlem Heat had been, 6-time world tag champs. So I knew we could pretty much get the job done again. So I thought that talent-wise, we were far superior to them. And by gosh, we had a big victory, didn't we?
In this segment, he was sort of telling the truth. Kevin Nash and Scott Hall were more well-known wrestlers at the time than compared to who they were going against. So, yeah, this part's truthful. At least in my opinion, they're more well-known. That might be because of his run as Diesel and Razor Ramon. But, yeah. Let's continue, shall we?
Well, I knew that I had to find find something to do after my wrestling career, so I thought I'd go ahead and get a little practice in courtesy of WCW. And Scott and I took over with Eric, and I think we called almost 2 hours one night. I believe it was at that point maybe the highest rated Nitro ever. It wasn't the match quality, I think it was just basically Scott and I. And me! To this day, he continually preaches this traditionalism thing that, wrestling has roots and everything else. And I mean, Scott and I have the philosophy that wrestling's not about tradition, it's about money. If you don't like...
Well, yeah, most people have jobs for the money. But in your case, I hope you're doing it more than just for the money, Kevin Nash. Other than that, not much to say. Let's continue.
I think of all the things I've done in the 10 years I've been a professional wrestler, without a doubt, the one highlight of my career was being able to play Arn Anderson.
The main takeaway I take out of that is the fact that he was wrestling for about 10 years at this point, and I think he retired in the early 2000s, so yeah. He had a pretty long career. Even though this technically came out in 1998, he still had a pretty long career. About 12-year career? Sounds about right. Long career. Let's continue.
I realized I was nominated for 7 Emmys on that, and was eked out by, I think it was Joe Mannix.
I don't really have anything to say about this segment, so let's just keep moving forward, shall we?
What happens, we actually knocked the skin loose on Ric Flair, and as you see now, he's still suffering.
Unfortunately, I have nothing to say about this segment either, so let's just move on to the next one, shall we?
Ran his mouth for a long time, and as far as I'm concerned, there's only one giant in professional wrestling. It's Kevin Nash. I mean, he can wear lifts in his shoes and say he's the giant, but on that given night, when it came down to it, I think everyone knows why the moniker Big Sexy, the, quote, giant killer, was born.
The Giant Killer nickname was made at Sold Out 98 on January 24th. And that's when he got the name Giant Killer. Just a little background in case you don't know what he's talking about. And what I think about that nickname, it's okay, I guess, but let's move on.
Attempt at WCW to curtail my performances, to try to hold me back, and with Hogan's incredible amount of wealth, he came to me and said, go ahead and continue to do it, and I'll pay the fines, and we continue to do it.
I think when Kevin Nash said fines, I think he meant bail him out of jail storyline wise, because that's what it was showing on the screen. But he accidentally said, fines. And he also mentioned that Hulk Hogan was very wealthy at the time. I'm sure it's still true, but nothing else to really take out of this segment. Let's continue.
We've been great friends now for almost 8 years, and I mean, there were some problems, and his problems were that of a personal, weren't anything that was professionally or in a business sense. And, I'm his closest friend, and always have been, and he had to work through that, and that was just something that he had to do. It was his, and I was there for him.
Of course, when Kevin Nash is talking about this, he's referring to Scott Hall and his friendship in real life, which got also turned into a storyline when he mentioned that his friendship was a little rocky, basically. And other than that, I don't really have anything else to talk about this segment, so let's continue.
I think my position the whole time was I actually stated that I didn't win until I got Scott Hall back. And it wasn't about beating him. I didn't want to beat him. I just wanted my friend back. And I think that's one of the things, in retrospect, that brought him back was the fact that, it's like, wow, the wake-up call for him.
In this segment, they're still talking about the Rocky friendship. And I pretty much already said everything I want to say about that. So let's continue.
Who's the guy that beat him anyway? He had like a streak, like 174 or something like that. Oh, that's right. It was me, wasn't it? So I guess I'm also the big sexy, the streak ender. Another little feather in my cap. I'm like an icon.
Yeah, even I have to admit that Kevin Nash ending Goldberg's streak in Starrcade in 1998 or 99 was probably the biggest moment in his career because Goldberg had over 100 wins. So that's pretty impressive. Anyways, let's continue.
Wrestling been very, very good to me. NWO very, very good to me. So, we're the elite. If it was the armed forces, we'd be the Green Beret or the SEALs. We're the cream of the crop. And I think as long as professional wrestling continues, as long as the main core, Hollywood, Scott, myself, Lex, and Scott Steiner, continue with the NWO, that, the sky's the limit.
The NWO was indeed the elite of the time. And now for some bloopers from the interview to listen to.
The Giant, I sat at home, did a lot of soul searching, and came up with this little ditty.
This little ditty.
Okay, wait, stay still.
Buzzkill. And I've been hypnotized by this song.
Good.
Come on! Punitive damages. I hope you got a lawyer. Oh, man. Sir, doctor. Oh, I'm out of here. You'll hear from my attorneys. When you're NWO, everyone knows you're NWO. For life.
And he came home with this little ditty. Yeah, that still gets me. But yeah, that is the end of the tape and all the interview segments. If you enjoyed this, you know what to do. See you guys next time. Bye.